She's like, where would we go, bro? Neverland? LOL, 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 LOL. Hey guys, it's Sarah. Welcome back to another video here on my channel. I hope you guys are doing well. Today we are jumping back into Once Upon a Time. I'm really excited. I think that it took me so long to get through season 1 that I forgot how good the show gets genuinely for like 3 seasons. So like we're rocking and rolling. I'm so excited to talk about these episodes today and to talk about my man Hook because he's in 2 of them. So we've been blessed. If you guys aren't already subscribed, don't forget to do that now just so you don't miss any videos in the series. And without further ado, let's get into this week's bedtime story. Okay, so this episode is called The Doctor. Thank God we have subplot, because if I had to sit here and just talk to you for an entire episode about Dr. Whale, I would jump out the window over here. Okay, so the girls are in the Enchanted Forest, right? They're traveling together now, Aurora, Mulan, Snow, and Emma. They come across a village where they realize that Cora has like decimated it. All the people are missing their hearts, they're all dead. Snow is like, this is Cora's magic, it's evil. And then Emma hears somebody moving in the rubble, okay? Underneath a pile of bodies, they find a survivor, except it's actually Hook in disguise, and he is so cute in this little outfit, okay? He's like bundled up in like soft fur and there's no leather. He's so cute. I love him so much. But they're in danger, okay? Because we know he's lying. We know he's working with Cora, so why now is he like laying under these bodies being like, help me, somebody help. He makes eye contact with Emma also for the first time here. If only they do. Back in Storybrooke, Dr. Whale goes to David and is like, hey David, I need to talk to you. And when Charming turns around, he just decks him in the face. And Whale is like, dude, what was that for? And he's like, you slept with my wife. And Dr. Whale has the audacity to go, Catherine? No, I didn't. And it's like, you can't be that stupid. Like, you know you hooked up with Snow White. Anyway, Whale wants to know if it's true that the Enchanted Forest is still around, but he makes a point of being like, if the Enchanted Forest still exists, does that mean other lands still exist? So that's like super suspicious. What does that mean? Regina goes to Archie because she is struggling with the fact that she promised Henry she would stop using magic, but our girl is like 2 days sober, okay? She's doing great. Archie's so proud of her. And then all of a sudden, Dr. Whale bursts into the room and he's yelling at Regina, which is so inappropriate. Archie's ready to just like throw hands. He says he wants her to send him back to his own land, to his brother. She's like, dude, there are lost posters all around town. He's probably looking for you too. Relax. And Dr. Will goes, no, Regina, your curse only brought back the living. Now, what does that mean? Archie kicks him out, but then he like gently reminds Regina that she did in fact bring her father's grave back over, so if she wanted to help Dr. Whale, she could. We get a flashback of young Regina working with Rumple, and she is so sweet and so naive. I know I keep saying that, but it is like such a sharp contrast between the evil queen and young Regina before she hits that point. I can't stress it enough. She learns how to do like the time freezing spell, so she freezes a unicorn like mid jumping up, and then Rumple is like, okay, cool, next steps, reach into the unicorn's chest, take its heart. She can't do it because she feels like the horse is an innocent. Rumple is like, oh my god, you're ridiculous. So he goes over, he grabs the heart out. He makes the unicorn bow to him. He proves to her that like this is a training exercise in like recognizing that magic is power, and whoever holds the magic, in this case like the magical heart, holds the power over the other creature. She's really disgusted by this. He then says, okay, well, if you can't rip them out, that's, fine, we'll work on it. I need you to crush this unicorn's heart now. Prove to me that you're ready to take the next step in your training. She starts to do it, and then the unicorn cries out in pain, and she's like, no, absolutely not, I cannot. He says until she can take power, she isn't learning anything, and he basically just sends her away and says, figure out what's holding you back and come back to me whenever you're ready to begin again. We then see Daniel's body in a glass coffin, just like Snow White's. And then we go back to like Regina talking to Archie and admitting that she also brought Daniel over. He says if she can't let go of the past, it will always haunt her, and she storms out, realizing that he clearly can't help her, which isn't true. She's just afraid of therapy. As she's driving home though, she sees Daniel lurking about downtown. Henry's having trouble sleeping and just increasingly dealing with like problems connected to missing the girls. So David is continuing his night training because he wants to kind of keep his mind off of it. He takes Henry over to the stables and tells him that he's going to teach him how to ride, but first he's got to like build trust with the horse. So he's going to be mucking the stalls in the morning before school and in the afternoon after school until the horse tells him he's ready for him to be his rider. Regina rushes to her crypt and finds Daniel's body missing. We go to another flashback where Regina is trying to like earn favor with Rumpel again. It's not really working and he's being kind of short with her even though she's still in the workshop with him. He finally snaps and is like, I want to know why you really came to me. Like, what did you expect me to help you with? And she says she wants to learn how to bring people back from the dead, meaning Daniel. Well, Rumpel starts laughing at her and he's like, Girly Pop, that's never gonna happen, okay? Magic can't do that. Dead is dead. Jefferson then pops into the room like a little chaotic emo mess, and he's like, I thought nothing was beyond your reach, Rumpel. He is strung out. He's got like thick eyeliner this season. Just silly, goofy, emo, leather pants wearing man. I adore this version of him. Rumpel kicks Regina out and is like, teaching you was a waste of my time. I'm done with you. But then Jefferson goes up to her. He says maybe she needs to be looking elsewhere for assistance. He knows of a guy, because of all of his traveling, who can bring people back from the dead. And he's happy to get her connected with that man as long as she will give him a royal passport since she's the queen, and that will allow him to travel throughout the kingdom without getting in trouble. They look stupid good together in this scene, okay? And all they're doing is like standing next to each other, talking face to face. I understand why this show was so many people's bi awakening. The entire cast is just stupid gorgeous. Back in the Enchanted Forest in the present time, the girls are adjusting to traveling with Hook. Aurora and Mulan know him from the village because remember, this is kind of like where all the refugees have been. So they say he's a blacksmith that showed up a little while ago and he said he lost his hand in the Ogre's War. But Emma doesn't trust him and she's pretty sure that Cora is just playing another trick on them. He's being so sweet and small and like, thank you guys so much for helping me. I'm just a poor, except you know, in one hand, I'm just a poor little, oh. It's ridiculous because if you know who he really is, you're like, oh dear God, what are you doing? Emma leans over the table and whispers to him that she's really good at telling when people are lying. And he whispers back, but I'm telling the truth. Snow White starts talking about, okay, good, they've got him on their side, they're ready to go home. He's talking about how he's gonna lead them there, and then all of a sudden Emma grabs him by the back of the head, yanks his head back, and puts a knife to his throat and says, you're not gonna lead us anywhere until you tell us who you really are. We cut to young Regina and Jefferson back in the palace, getting ready to meet this like mysterious man. He reminds her that this guy is from a land without magic, so he might be a little nervous. Then we see Dr. freaking Whale with like an old English accent and like steampunky clothes and little tiny glasses. They take him to see Daniel's body and he's like, wow, this is incredible. He's so well preserved. So he's actually never done this procedure before because he says regular human hearts can't withstand it, but he's been told that this land has magical hearts and they should be able to handle it. Regina is like, okay, I know where we can get one. We go back to Storybrooke, modern times, where Regina stumbles into the hospital looking for Dr. Whale. Instead, she finds like a thrown together operation room, a torn off arm on the table, and then Dr. Whale passed out on the floor, delirious from blood loss because he's missing an arm. Yeah, he brought Daniel back, but he says he's not Daniel, he's a monster. Young Regina takes the boys down into her mom's vault and shows them the hearts she's collected, and Jefferson is like, oh, whose hearts are these? And Regina has to be like, oh, I have no idea. She killed and tortured so many people that I lost count. Whale, though, is like a kid in a candy store, and he's like running about picking a heart for the procedure. At the hospital, David shows up. He's interrogating Regina. She's like, look, I didn't do this. Somehow, Daniel is back. Whale did it. And now something's wrong with Daniel. This means also that Whale stole one of Regina's hearts from her vault, just like, back then when he took it from Cora's. David's like, what do you mean you have hearts in Storybrooke? And she's like, they're not from here. They're from the Enchanted Forest. I just brought them over with me. She wants to go look for Daniel, but he can't let her go alone because it's clearly too dangerous. She figures out that she's pretty sure Daniel is like retracing his steps the same way that David did when he woke up from his cursed sleep. So the last place Daniel was alive was the stables, except now Henry is there. We cut to Henry cleaning out his horse's stall. All of a sudden, the horses start freaking out, and then Daniel appears in the doorway. The girls, back in the Enchanted Forest, tie Hook up to a tree, and then Emma whistles to call the ogres over to eat him. He's screaming, crying, throwing up. He's like, no, don't leave me here. Please help me. And then when it's clear they're gonna leave him, he's like, okay, fine. You bested me. I can count the number of men who've done that on one hand. And Emma's like, is that supposed to be funny? He tells them he's Captain Killian Jones, but they might know him by his other name, Hook. Emma's heard of him because obviously she knows the story of Peter Pan, and he is like, oh, you've heard of me, have you? Nice. He admits that Cora sent him so that he could get closer to them to learn about Storybrooke so she wouldn't be surprised when they traveled over. Cora has the ashes. She's gonna make a portal. Everybody's upset. Aurora wants to leave him to die because she's in her like, I don't give a shit era. But he says they need him alive because he's happy to turn on Cora and help them instead. He tells them they need a compass, which will like help guide the vessel to get them back to Storybrooke properly. Cora's also looking for it, but if they get it first, then Cora can't do anything with the ashes that she has. Emma asks him why Captain Hook would want to go back to Storybrooke, and he says to get revenge on the man who took my hand. He's telling the truth, so she unties him and they get ready to leave. Henry's trying to be nice to Daniel, but Daniel is clearly having like weird memory flashes, and he thinks when Henry's like reaching out to help him that that's Cora's hand reaching out to take his heart again, so he ends up plucking Henry by the throat and lifting him into the air, choking him out. Regina shows up though, and when he sees her, he lets Henry go, and Henry gets to Daniel, and Henry gets to David, and then they run off. Daniel then tries to attack Regina, so David like throws him in the horse stall and shuts the door. Regina is like trying to get him to let her talk to him. David's insisting that Daniel is too far gone, so he draws his gun, like getting ready to shoot him. She is not even using magic. She's just like throwing herself into David and screaming and begging him to listen. Finally, he stops and she whispers, please, let me talk to my fiance. Back in the flashbacks, Dr. Whale does the procedure, but he won't let them watch because he says that there are things that they won't understand and he doesn't want to freak them out. So he goes into a tent with Daniel's body. Jefferson and Regina are watching. There's like a lightning flash that happens and they jump into each other's arms, which is so cute. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. And even Jefferson is like, look, if Dr. Whale can't do it, it can't be done. We see Regina then laying her head on Daniel's chest and crying again over losing him a second time. Regina unlocks the cell and Daniel's like cowering in the corner. He stumbles over to her and then attacks her again. She chokes out that she loves him, and that makes him like snap out of it and stop. He comes back to himself and they're able to hug, which is really sweet, but he's also still freaking out. Like he's in a lot of pain. He's not himself. Something is wrong. He begs her to stop the pain and let him go. She says she can't because she loves him, and he like holds her face and he's like, then love again. He attacks. She uses her magic to freeze him in place. And then while sobbing, she like shoos him away and he vanishes into dust. Then we get a close-up shot of her face while she's still crying and she whispers, goodbye, Daniel. We cut back to Hook leading the girls through the forest. He takes them to a beanstalk. He says the compass is up at the top. It's not the climb they need to worry about. It's the giants. We go back to young Regina, except now She's evil queen, Regina, okay? So losing Daniel and realizing she was never gonna get him back is what finally snapped her into Crazy Town. She wants to restart her training. There's another girl with Rumple, and she's like, who is this? And he says, oh, I needed somebody more serious. So Regina reaches into that random lady's chest, rips her heart out, crushes it without hesitation, and says, was that serious enough for you? He giggles, and she goes, now, where were we? They're the couple we didn't get, but we deserved it. Regina is still heartbroken about losing Daniel. She runs back to Archie and tells him that she used magic. In the flashbacks, we see Jefferson take Dr. Whale to Rumple. So it turns out they were all lying to Regina. It was all a setup. So Whale tricked Regina into breaking her heart again, which then led her back to Rumple so he could keep teaching her. And he is taking the heart home with him. So he never even tried to bring Daniel back. Once again, let me just tell you that Jefferson is so hot. This arc for him, he's so attractive, it's ridiculous. I don't even really know where this is supposed to land in the timeline. I think this is like pre-Grace. Stay tuned to see if that's confirmed, because I don't remember. We then see in the present Dr. Whale walking through town with one arm and a cooler. He goes to Rumple and tells him to put it back on. Rumple wants to know why Dr. Whale even bothered to bring Daniel back, and he says he was hoping that if he helped Regina, she would help send him home. Rumple makes him admit that magic is better than medicine, and then he puts his arm back on. He also calls him Victor. Yes, we cut back to a flashback, except this time it's in black and white. Dr. Whale is arriving home to his giant creepy gothic house, except he's not in the Enchanted Forest. He's in like Frankenstein world because he's Victor Frankenstein. He's got the glowing heart and he's prepared to bring his brother back to life. He starts the procedure with his little assistant one last time. It works, and his brother wakes up. This is one of my favorite episodes. The gang reaches the beanstalk. Hook explains that the giants were evil. They used the magic beans that make portals to like go around and steal from everybody and visit all these lands and conquer them. So Jack, the giant killer, came and attacked them and started a war, and each giant that Jack killed, they would like destroy the beans as they were dying. So that's why there's no more magic beans in the Enchanted Forest. There's one giant left in the Enchanted Forest realm, and they're gonna have to beat him if they want to get the compass. Snow unties Hook, because obviously he can't climb up the beanstalk with his hands tied together like this, and while she's doing it, he like leans down into her face and whispers, "Thank you, my lady. That's your mother-in-law. Back up." So Emma and Hook are gonna climb the beanstalk together because he has magical bracelets that will keep them like tethered to the beanstalk. Otherwise you'll get like repelled off of it, which is not safe because it goes way the frick up into the air, like into the cloud cover. Also, I should tell you now, Emma is absolutely into him, okay? They keep making eyes at each other even though they're not supposed to be doing that. We then cut, surprisingly, to young Emma. I love young Emma, oh my god. She is stealing her yellow punch buggy that we see her drive. Except, surprise, surprise, as she's driving away, there is somebody asleep in the back seat. It's the guy from New York that we saw at the start of the season. The fact that Hook and this man overlap together like this, wild to me. This is such a good episode. He introduces himself as Neil Cassidy and then asks her if she wants to go for drinks. And she's like, dude, I just stole your car. They're bantering and it is so flirty and sweet and cute and perfect. And then they run a stop sign and get pulled over. He pretends immediately that she's his girlfriend and tells the officer, "I'm so sorry, women, dude. I was trying to teach her how to drive stick. She's not very good at it yet." The officer is like, "Okay, dude, I get it. I'll give you a warning," and walks away. Emma is like, "Really? So now I'm your fake girlfriend?" And he's like, "Would you be quiet? We both just got lucky." And she realizes she stole a stolen car. Match made in heaven. I love them. As they're getting ready to climb, Mulan pulls Emma aside and gives her some poppy seed powder, which will knock the giant out and hopefully give them enough time to steal the compass without having to like kill him. Emma tells her, "Give me 10 hours, and if I'm not back, you cut the beanstalk down. They give Killian back his hook because he can't climb one-handed, and Emma is like, don't think I'm taking my eyes off of you for a second. And he goes, I would despair if you did. You two have to stop. I think I recommended her channel to you guys the last time I did one of these, but you really need to go check out Serena Skyborn's videos. She did like a whole segment in her most recent Emma video talking about Hook and Emma and the implications of them climbing the beanstalk as their first adventure, and it was all I could think while I was watching this episode. I was like, it is genius. I love it. Ah. He tells her he doesn't mind her silence because he loves a challenge, but he does wish she would just trust him because it would make things easier. She's like, nobody trusts you, dude. You're a pirate. He tells her it doesn't even really matter if she talks to him or not because she's an open book and he's really good at reading people. He knows that she wanted to be the one to climb the beanstalk with him because she's the one most desperate to get home to Henry because she doesn't want to abandon him the way she was abandoned. She's like, how would you possibly know that? And he's like, I spent a lot of time in Neverland with the Lost Boys, and orphan's an orphan, no matter what you look like. He then asks if she's ever even been in love, and she says, no. Yeah, but then we cut to Neil and a pregnant Emma. They run a con in a gas station where she steals food quickly while he like fumbles with a map at the front desk trying to distract the owner. Unfortunately, another customer comes in and rats them out, so they like frantically have to think of a new plan, and Emma is like, oh my god, I'm going into labor, and she starts freaking out, so Neil has to like rush her outside and they get away. They're still in the stolen bug, and Emma's not really pregnant, it was all fake. Neil, being adorable, is like, hey, I got you a keychain, and it's this little keychain with a swan like pendant on it. You mean the freaking necklace that she wears? Oh my god. We see them go to a hotel and sneak in after another family leaves to like shower and relax. He asks if she would ever want to get a real place with him and retire the Bonnie and Clyde act because he thinks maybe it's time. She's like, where would we go, bro? Neverland? LOL, 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 LOL. He picks up a map and tells her to close her eyes and point, and wherever she lands on, that's where they'll go. She picks Tallahassee, and she's like, are you sure this is what you really want? And Neil goes, you're what I really want. Oh my god. Mulan makes a sundial in the dirt at the base of the beanstalk to keep track of the 10 hours timeline, but she lies and pretends like she's tracking the options for them to go on watch. So she takes the first rest because Aurora is too scared to sleep. Snow White tells her, what if I sit with you and watch over you while you rest? Because that's what David used to do to me because I had nightmares too when I came out of the sleeping curse. Hook and Emma reach the top of the beanstalk and step off together in perfect sync into the giant's lands. Woof, this is the scene where her hand gets cut climbing out and he bandages it, and he's only got one hand, so he like wraps the bandage and then he pulls it with his teeth while looking at her. Oh my god, this was improvised. Colin, the man that you are. Emma is absolutely weak over those baby blue eyes, okay? Her voice just like cuts out entirely. And I don't even blame her. They have such a tendency of like challenging each other and being annoying, but then also like split second later being so soft and like easily opening up to each other. Like they're such good, like they're not even foils. Like they're just so good together. It's so perfect. Like after this like hand wrapping moment, she sees his tattoo on his arm of Mila's name, and she's like, who's Mila? And he tells her the truth when Emma is like, that's the real reason you're going to Storybrooke, isn't it? It's not about your hand, it's about Mila. Rumple took her from you too. Hook is like, yes, you're correct. He says that for somebody that's never been in love, she seems to be really freaking intuitive about it, and she says, well, maybe I was in love once. And again, in that broken, soft voice that she never uses. We've only heard her talk like this to like Snow and David and Henry a couple times. We go back to young Emma and Neil. He's now being manhunted for a job he did robbing a jewelry store before he got with Emma. He thought it had died down, but it hasn't, and now he's like, I have to go to Canada. You can't come with me because if you get caught, you're also gonna get in trouble. She wants to stay with him though, and is like, what if I go pick up the stolen watches from the place where you left them, because no one's looking for me. If they can sell the watches, they'll have enough money to start over together, get new identities, everything will be better. He doesn't want her to risk it, but she whispers that she loves him. He says he loves her too, and agrees. Back in the giant's palace, Hook starts making a ruckus so that they can distract the giant with him while Emma throws the powder at him and knocks him out. It's freaking Hurley from Lost. That's the giant. He's truly so large, okay? Hook is like minuscule in comparison to this man. He's freaking huge. Hook's just like dancing around at his feet, yelling out that if he wants to hurt a human, he's the worst kind of human around and he should come hurt him. Emma's able to throw the powder and it knocks him out stone cold. Hook gets lost in the rubble when he falls over. It like breaks things and she can't see Hook when the dust clears, so she's screaming for him, like absolutely in distress. He just pops out though and he's like, I don't want to alarm you, Emma, but I think we make a great team. She's breathless when she whispers, let's go steal a compass. Aurora has a nightmare. Snow wakes her up from it and comforts her. Mulan is kind of watching off to the side. She's clearly worried about Aurora and also maybe a little upset that she's not the one giving her comfort. We're gonna come back to that. Aurora describes her dream and says she was in a room that was red, there were curtains, they were on fire, and she could see somebody also in the room, but she couldn't get to them. We see young Emma go to pick up the watches. She's nervous, but she gets them out no problem and walks right by security, heading for Neil. Hook is distracted by all the gold in the giant's treasure room. Emma's like, we have to get the compass first because we have no idea how long he'll be asleep. They find the skeletal body of Jack the Giant Killer with the giant killing sword laying beside their body. And then Emma suddenly goes, whoa, 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 and like throws herself at Hook and grabs him. He is like holding her and he's like, oh, it's about bloody time. She says, shut up, you idiot man. You almost backed up into a tripwire. Don't be ridiculous. But also, when he walks away from her, she's like, young Emma gets into a car with Neil. He says they're gonna be able to get about 20 grand from all the watches. So he's ready and they're both so excited to go home to Tallahassee together. They keep saying like, we're almost home. It's almost time to go home. Kill me. He leaves to go get the money and she stays in the car smiling, watching him walk away. We then follow Neil to the meeting spot to get the money, but he is chased down by August. He snatches Neil up and says, if you really want to protect Emma, you need to listen to me. He calls himself Emma's guardian angel and says he's been looking for her for 2 years. Neil is like, her guardian angel, do you have any idea what she's been through? And August is like, I know I made mistakes in the past, but I'm here now. I thought she'd be safe in the system, but clearly I was wrong. Neil is like, yeah, bro, you were. I'm the best thing that's ever happened to Emma, so you, my friend, need to back off. Neil is like, we promised to take care of each other. I love her. I want what's best for her. August is like, if that's the truth, then you need to leave her because she has a destiny that she's not going to fulfill if she's with you. August says, I'm going to show you something. And once I do, you're going to believe me and you're going to do what I say. Neil is like, yeah, okay, sure, bro. August pops the lid on a box, which we know holds his typewriter in it. So whatever's written in that box, Neil looks in and is absolutely gagged beyond belief. He backs up and he's like, okay, I'm listening. August is like, there's a curse that needs to be broken and Emma is the key. He agrees to tell him everything, but he's like, once I'm done, you're gonna have to make a choice, and I hope you make the right one. Then we cut to young Emma waiting for Neil at the meeting spot the next morning. She gets stopped by a cop, and he tells her that her boy ran off and turned her in. He left her with one of the watches, which was really cute in the car when it happened, but now it's just proof that she was involved. Emma is absolutely, like, devastated and in complete shock. The cop asks her, Where are the other watches? And she whispers, they're gone. They're never coming back. Hook and Emma are now arguing over like who's gonna carry the compass once they get it. And she's finally like, what if we just get it at the same time? Like we'll both reach for it, we'll both grab it at the same time. Hook is like, we desperately need to work on your trust issues because we're gonna carry it together? I don't think so. The giant then wakes up and comes storming into the room to follow them. Hook gets trapped under some rubble, so like he's down for the count. And Emma gets snatched up in the giant's hand. We see flashback August and Neil meeting up. It's been a little while since Emma and Neil split up. He's still really upset and like desperately missing her. He wants to know that she's okay so that he can try to move on. August promises that she's gonna be fine. She got 11 months and when she gets out, she's gonna be like more herself and ready to like continue on with her life alone. Neil makes August promise to actually stick around and be there for her. Haha. He did not do that. And then Neil gives him the money from the watches and the keys to the yellow punch buggy, which he got like a proper VIN number for, so now it's all legit. And he's like, I want her to have these things so that I can at least feel like part of me is there with her while she's like going forward. Yeah, so he gave her the punch buggy and she kept the punch buggy. August is the one that sent Neil the postcard at the beginning of the season that just said broken. Back in the freaking Giant's palace, Emma is in his fist begging him to let her go. She says she isn't trying to steal money, she was just trying to get back to her son. He says humans killed all of his family and he starts to squish her and then she bites him on the hand and he drops her. She gets Jack's sword from the ground and then traps him in one of the cages. I'm pretty sure it's like the tripwire that Hook was gonna walk on. She promises not to kill him if he'll just let her leave and give her the compass. He says that humans killed his family to get to the beans, which is obviously the opposite of what she was told by Hook. And he says, well, yeah, the victors tell the stories. So he gives her the compass and she leaves without killing him. It's very sad. He breaks out of the cage and at first she's like, oh my God, he is gonna kill me. And then he grabs a rock, lifts it away from the wall and reveals like a little secret hole that she can leave through. She starts to go and then she turns back around and she's like, hold on. I actually need 2 favors. We then cut to Emma helping Hook up from the rubble. She won't let him hold the compass though. Like he's mesmerized by it. He thinks it's the most beautiful thing ever. It's prettier than he thought it was gonna be. So when she snatches it away, he's like, okay, cool it, and leaves his hand up to her so she can like help him to his feet instead. Except when she takes it, she quickly shackles him into like a golden chain. He's broken about this. He's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? He says he hasn't lied to her once since they started working together. And he's the reason why she found the dang compass in the first place. She says that she knows he hasn't lied, but she can't take the chance of trusting him and being wrong. The giant isn't going to kill him. He's just gonna keep him tied up for 10 hours so that they have a head start and Emma and the girls can get away. He's like, Swan, 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 screaming it as she leaves him behind. That's gonna have some serious ramifications for both of them. Like, girl, that is mistake number 1 in this season. Down on the ground, Mulan realizes they've hit 10 hours and she starts cutting that beanstalk down. We get an awful line reading from Snow. She goes, no! Tackles Mulan to the ground and starts like basically fist fighting her. She's like, you don't hurt my daughter. But then Emma jumps down and is like, everybody stop, relax. I'm here, I've got the compass, let's go. Aurora's like, hold on. Where's the attractive pirate man? And Emma's like, he's gone. I left him behind. We then see young Emma in jail getting the car keys delivered to her. He left the little swan keychain on it, which I will remind you one more time, she now wears around her neck in present day. Oh my God. Also, this is when she found out she was pregnant. So we can assume that Neil has no idea about Henry. We then cut to Henry waking up screaming in bed. David is obviously there with him in the house, so he does the same things he used to do for Snow White that she was then doing for Aurora, and like lights a candle and talks Henry through it, except Henry was dreaming about a room that was red with burning curtains. All right, we're switching gears. Forget about the main cast. This is a side character episode now. Buckle up. The dwarves are still mining for dust to help bring Emma and Snow back, but only Grumpy is like really taking the job seriously because he's the one that's like, Snow is our queen and David's our king and we have to help them. So he breaks through one of the walls in the tunnel. He falls into a cavern and we cut to David speeding around town in his car. He gets to them and is like, what happened? And then we see the dwarves standing in the cavern. It's filled with diamonds. The magic brought them back, and now they're going to be able to make dust again. Everyone celebrates this at Granny's, but Ruby is being a little weird. We meet Billy again, which is the cute mechanic guy that she had flirted with back in season 1. His name is Gus Gus. He's the freaking mouse from Cinderella's palace. He says he already knows Ruby, but he wants to get to know Red. She tries to make an excuse about how they can't meet up that night. Belle comes over and is like, because it's girls' night. We already have plans. Sorry, Billy. But they were lying. It's just a full moon. Charming's evil fake dad, the evil king, I think his name is King George, he threatens him, saying he's gonna find a way to turn the town against him. David then catches Ruby and Granny turning the walk-in freezer into a cell to hide Ruby in because they don't have anywhere to chain her up. David is like, we haven't had to chain you up in years, dude. What are you talking about? And Ruby is like, well, I haven't turned in years, David. Okay, so I have no idea what the wolf's time is gonna do to me. We have to be careful. I'm dangerous. We cut to younger Red and Snow running through the forest together. They get chased by the Queen's guards. They fight them off. This is the first time that Snow sees the wanted posters and realizes she's being chased. Ruby gets a tear in her red cloak and she's really worried she might hurt Snow on accident, so they separate for the night. Snow is like, I'm not afraid of you, and if you need to do this, that's fine, but we're gonna meet up together after the full moon and we're gonna run off and we're gonna find a cabin in the woods and we're gonna be safe together because we are sisters. Except there is a man in the woods with them watching Ruby and he has like glinting wolf eyes. Granny comes to the diner the next day to see that Ruby broke out. Henry is having that weird burning nightmare again, except we can see Aurora in there with him now. So he obviously doesn't know that's Aurora, but we do, and they're like facing each other from opposite corners and they can't reach each other or talk. Regina wakes him up before Aurora can like potentially answer him. He's freaking out, and when she tries to like reach for him to comfort him, he pulls his arm away because it hurts because he's been burned. Granny tracks Ruby through the woods with David. They find her asleep and confused. Also, I should say she doesn't have her hood. They've looked everywhere for it, nobody can find it, so that's why they had to chain her up, because normally she would just wear her hood and she'd be fine. She has no memories from the night before, and she's terrified she did something. David assures her that nobody's called anything in, everything is fine, except then he gets a phone call. He tells her, there's just a car double parked downtown. I'm just gonna have to go move it. It's not a big deal. We see young Red asleep in a cave with her hood. It looks like nothing happened though, so she didn't have to be afraid, and just because it got a tear in it, it still works. She goes to a stream to drink, and that same man with the glinting eyes shows up, snatches her hood, runs off with it, and she has to chase him through the woods. He threatens to burn it once she catches him, and then he tells her that he knew she was a wolf the whole time, because he's one too. His name is Quinn, and he came to find her. He wanted to know if she needed help with her wolf powers, and she's like, well, yeah, I have nobody to talk to about it. And he's like, excellent news. I'm gonna take you back to our secret den. You can meet the family, let's go. He takes her to, I think they say that it's the old main hall of the castle, but it like sunk down into the ground, so now that's where they live. I don't know. They live underground. She meets Anita, the head of the pack. She says they've been looking for Ruby for years because Anita is her mother. David takes Ruby and Granny with him to see that double parked car. It was actually Billy Gus's tow truck. Ruby smells blood, and then Granny finds Billy underneath the front of his truck, except Ruby also finds Billy in the dumpster behind the truck because Billy has been ripped in half. Ruby immediately starts crying and says it was the wolf. It was her. She did it. Rumpel comes to the flat to see Henry and Regina. He explains that what Henry's dealing with are side effects of the sleeping curse. Regina is like, I had no idea there were side effects because my victims were never supposed to wake up. And Rumpel's like, that's what you get for not reading the full instructions, you annoying woman. I actually think this is such cool lore, okay? It's really neat. Basically, Henry and Aurora are connected to each other because they've both been to this like scary dreamscape world in the sleeping curse. So when they go to sleep, occasionally that's where they go back to. And if they're both there at the same time, they can see each other. Rumpel says he can't stop the dreams because they just have to kind of go away on their own, but he gives Henry a magical necklace to wear, and he says that that will help him control the dreams, and then once he's no longer afraid of them, they'll stop. Rumpel tells them that since this is for Henry, it's free, and they don't owe him anything, which is gonna be really funny soon. David doesn't believe that Ruby would hurt anybody because he knows that her past and like the things she did before she could control turning are one thing. But once she learned how to control it, she stopped hurting people. And it's been years since they had to deal with that. That's not who Ruby is. She's not a killer. The town starts to gather, and David is like, don't worry, Ruby, I'll protect you. And she is still insisting that she is not the one that needs protecting. Everybody else needs to be kept safe from her. Young Ruby is talking to Anita. Anita tells her that Granny has been lying her whole life because Granny didn't understand the wolf magic. She didn't believe it was safe, so she kept Ruby from her true self. Anita says that that's normal. And it's kind of similar to what Rumpel was saying to Henry about like once you can control it, you don't have to be afraid anymore. She says that that's what's happening with the turning. You have to like accept the wolf and know that it's a part of you. And then once you do that, you can be one with it and you'll be fine. All your memories will stay connected. You won't lose time. You won't have to do anything you don't want to do. It's magical. David locks Ruby in a jail cell. It's been reinforced, but like there's no way it's gonna keep a giant wolf inside. She thanks him. He tells her to thank him in the morning once he's found proof that she didn't kill Billy. The evil king shows up and is like, David, it's very clear to me that you're letting your emotions cloud your judgment. Clearly, Ruby's the killer. He wants Ruby turned over to the town so that they can decide what they do with her. David is like, if you want her, you're gonna have to go through me first. And the king is like, okay, I look forward to it. Anita gives Ruby another lesson, saying that she has to keep herself tethered when she turns and let herself be given over to the wolf so that she doesn't lose herself. She wakes up in the den and everybody's standing around her, like waiting to see her wake up. And they're thrilled when she tells them that she remembers everything. More than anything, she's thankful that she doesn't have to be scared of herself anymore. Back in Storybrooke, the evil king has now riled everybody up, okay? There's a mob forming, and they storm into the jail to break Ruby out and kill her themselves, except she's gone. Yeah, David moved her to the library with Belle's help to keep her safe. Belle's not afraid of Ruby, she's just really sad that Ruby's being hunted. Granny is listening to the mob move through town because of her like special wolf hearing. David takes Granny off with him to help look for proof because she's gonna be able to like sniff things out and stuff like that. Snow White tracks Ruby to the den because she was worried about her because remember they were supposed to meet up after the full moons and she just didn't show up. They try to kill her, but Ruby stops them. We get yet another line reading where Ruby is like, oh, I'm so sorry, Snow. I just can't. The den is nervous about Snow, but Ruby assures them that they're friends and Snow would never hurt them, but also Ruby doesn't want to leave with her anymore because she doesn't want to leave her family. It's confusing for Snow, but she's like, girl, you found your mother. Like, I could never ask you to leave. I would give anything to be with my mom again. It's a really sad goodbye, but they leave it like supporting each other as friends. And like, it's clear that they'll see each other again. And then an arrow flies through the room and stabs Quinn in the heart. Yeah, the Queen's Guard followed Snow. The wolves kill the guards, but Quinn dies. Back in the library, Belle wants to stay with Ruby, even though Ruby is like, girl, I'm gonna turn into a killer wolf. Absolutely not, you need to go. Belle is nothing if not consistent though. So she's like, there is good in you, Ruby. I should know, I'm kind of an expert on rehabilitation. Girl, no you're not. Your man is still feral as hell.
But Ruby shackles Belle instead and goes to leave, saying that she's gonna give herself over to the mob. Belle is like, they're gonna kill you. And Ruby's like, isn't that what I deserve? Girl, no. Granny, meanwhile, is sniffing around Billy's murder site. She tracks the smell to the trunk of a car where they find an axe and Ruby's missing hood. It's the evil king's car. How do they find that out? Oh, I'm so glad you asked. David, just no hesitation, smashes out the driver's side window. He's so fine. Then they hear Ruby howl. So they go running off because they're like, oh my God, if the mob finds her, we're screwed. Back in the den, Anita murmurs a prayer over Quinn's body. And then when Snow apologizes, Anita is like, I don't want to hear that. It's your fault. You must die. Ruby is freaking out. Anita has Snow chained up and says that the pack is going to eat a princess that night. Ruby's like, no, I'm not going to kill my friend. So Anita's like, great, I'll do it for you. She goes over to kill Snow. Snow's tied up, freaking out. Ruby turns and jumps on her mom, pushing her out of the way to keep Snow from being hurt. It is really devastating though, because when she throws her across the room, she lands on what I think is a fire poker, and it like stabs her through the back of the chest, and she dies. As she's dying, Anita is like, you chose her. And Ruby's like, no, I chose me. I don't want to be a killer. The mob finds Ruby and she's kind of like cowering by the dumpsters, knowing that they're going to attack her at any second. Before King George can shoot her though, Granny shoots his gun out of his hand with the crossbow and says that the next one will go between his eyes. David rushes over holding the cloak. He tells the town the truth, which is that King George wanted to hurt David by hurting his friends, so he killed Billy, and he pinned the murder on Ruby. Ruby's not gonna hurt anybody, she's just scared. So he goes over to Ruby carefully, and he tells her that he knows she's in there, and he knows who she really is. He explains what the evil king did, and tells her that nobody thinks she did it. She lets him get close enough to put the hood on her, and then she turns back into herself. She thanks him for saving her, and he says, girl, you saved yourself. I just reminded you of what you already knew. But yeah, then the king attacks Granny and runs off. So then David and Ruby have to chase him in the squad car. We cut to the king standing over a fire on the beach. This is so dramatic. It's ridiculous. He tells David he doesn't want to make a deal or get out of being in trouble. He just wants to see David's face when he realizes he'll never see his wife or child again. Then he pulls out the scraps of Jefferson's hat that David was hoping to fix with the dust from the mine and says, you should really be more careful with something so precious, before throwing it into the fire. David punches him and then pulls the gun on him. Ruby begs him not to. She's like, don't do it, David. That's not who you are. Girly Pop, yes it is. I have seen him snap a guard's neck with his bare hands. He starts crying and the king is like, I bet you wish you'd killed me when you had the chance, huh? David collapses next to the fire, crying. Back at the den, Ruby buries her mother and says the same prayer that she said over Quinn's body. Snow holds her while they both cry. Snow apologizes, but Ruby says she doesn't blame her. She says she didn't lose her family that day. She protected it. And then they go off together to find the cabin in the woods. We cut to David back at the apartment, standing over Henry's sleeping body. Ruby's in there with him. He's like, how am I supposed to tell him that we're never gonna see them again? Ruby's like, you're not, because you are gonna find another way. We're gonna figure it out as a team. They have a little bit of a moment here, but I think it's just because everybody in this show is attractive and the chemistry is just chemistrying, whether they want it to or not. She leaves her cloak with him and is like, I'm gonna go do something that I haven't done in years. He's like, what's that? And she's like, run! And then she takes off and he hears her howl and it's really cute. Snow is back in the enchanted forest, sitting under the full moon, looking up at it, and the implication that she is sitting there thinking about Ruby turning for the first time on her own, it's so sweet. We zoom in on sleeping Aurora and go into her nightmare. She's back in that burning room, except Henry's there again, and he controls the flames and tells her not to be afraid. Then Aurora wakes up calling for Snow. Snow and Emma come racing over. Aurora says that there was a little boy in the dream this time and he helped her. And he said that his name was Henry. The final shot is Emma and Snow looking at each other like, it's incredible. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to like the video and comment down below. I love talking to you guys each week. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you so soon. Have a good one. Bye!